Hey guys, Itaewon Sammy. How's everybody doing? Hope everyone is having a great 2022. What a thought that it's 2022. It just boggles my mind that 2 years has gone by. We're into year 2 of COVID, but today I'm going to talk about getting a visa in Korea. This has been a hot topic. And everyone is asking about it. Everyone is concerned about it. And in the world of COVID, let me just set this up. How's that? Okay, that's a little bit better. Sorry about that. In the world of COVID, how do I get a visa to Korea? Okay, I'm going to talk about that, my experiences, what I've learned in the 13 years that I've been living here in Korea. What is your options for everyone that's out there? Okay, so thank you very much for watching this video. Really appreciate it. I do thank all of my loyal subscribers and followers. Chef Pizza, you may not be interested in this because you're already here in Korea. Thank you for watching, commenting, and liking. Please, if you haven't, just do a quick like. I really want to get my videos out there to everybody, helping them out. Okay, so let's get right into it. Thank you again, and let's get right in this. Lower down that volume so you can hear me clearly. All right, so what is the story? Okay, how do I get a visa to come to Korea? Well, as of January 2022, there are a few ways that you can get a visa to come to Korea. Okay, so let's talk specifically about working visas, but there are other visas. There's a tourist visa, there's a working holiday visa, and there's a few others, but most of the people who want to come here, and a student visa, most of the people who want to come here want to work. Okay, that's the question I've been getting a lot of, but I'll touch very briefly on the other visas. A tourist visa, probably not going to get a tourist visa in the world of COVID. Okay, unless you're visiting family that's here, short-term, they'll call those short-term visas. Unless you're visiting family here, unless you're going for a funeral or a wedding. Otherwise, it's really difficult. Best to call your local embassy in your country. The Korean embassy in your country, they will know the answers to these questions because they get asked these questions all the time. The Korean embassy here or the Korean immigration here won't know about, they will, but it'll be difficult, okay? Say, for example, you're in South Africa. The Korean embassy in South Africa will know all the information about how South Africans can come to Korea because that's their job, okay? Their job is to issue visas, so that's the best person to talk to, okay? That's my only recommendation. Number 2, working holiday visas. Those are being given, but again, it's very difficult, okay? There's age restrictions, education restrictions, etc. Number 3, student visas. Those are being given out, okay, because it's a revenue generator for the Korean economy. So they want students coming in here to learn. There's an issue going on with that because most of those universities right now are online only, okay? So a lot of the students are paying for dorms, paying for all of this stuff, but not getting the full education experience. So there is a concern. So you need to be aware of that, okay? Also, dorms have been a breeding ground for COVID right now, okay? There's a lot of issues going on there. So again, this is something you need to be aware of January 2022. Now, let's focus on the work visas. There are a few work visas, okay? Let me take a step back. Working holiday visa and a student visa, you can work a little bit in certain industries, in certain areas. Go to the immigration website to find out. You can't make a lot of money, can't work a lot of hours, but it's, it helps. They recently opened it up to even working in farms because there's a labor shortage. Now, let's move to the working visas. There's 4 areas where you can work. And I'm not going to talk about the big ones where, you're a professor, you're a scientist, a major doctor, an engineer, a tech guru. Those are, those guys aren't watching my videos, okay? Those guys that are making 6 figures and have doctorates, they're not watching my videos. they're being invited to come to this country. Okay, so I'm not going to touch on those jobs. I'm not going to talk about starting a business. That's a completely different video. Okay, I'll probably make one of those later. I'm going to talk about teacher visas coming from the 7 countries, and I've talked about which 7 countries, native English speaking countries, factory and migrant workers, and invitations. Okay, so let's talk about the main one, which is the teacher's visa. And I'm going to be saying this again, please. Okay, I've said this so many times, and so many people ask me again and again and again and again and over. It is not your qualifications. You could have a doctorate in English, but if you're not from one of the 7 countries that are listed in the immigration website, it is against the law. Okay? Yes, there are some exceptions. Yes, Indians can apply for a visa. But on top of the visa, you have to have a job offer. And the reality here is no company is going to hire you. No school, no private hagwon, so no public school and no private hagwon is going to hire you over someone from a Western country. Okay? It's just not going to happen. That's the reality. It may be legal, but there's no demand. Okay? It's all about supply and demand. Okay? So you could be legal being from India or being from another country, but your education was 100% in a Western country. You just don't have the passport. Yes, that is possible. But again, who's going to hire you? You can. There's multiple steps, and you got to remember this. There's the visa and the job offer. They go hand in hand. You have to have the job offer to apply for the visa. You can't apply for the visa and then try to find the job offer. It doesn't work like that. Job offer, visa, together. If you don't have the job offer, you can't get the visa. And no company is going to offer you the job because they don't know about these little loopholes in the visa. Okay, if you go to one of my hagwons that I've worked at, hagwon is a private English academy. Okay, this is like a tutoring school or something like that. It's not a public school. It's a private business. That's another thing you got to remember here. It's a private business. It's not a school. It's basically daycare in English. So if you ask any of the owners there, they'll be like, India, no, I can't hire Indian. It's not against the law. And if you show them the law, they'll be like, oh, I didn't know that. But the parents don't want Indian. They want Western. There you go. Public schools, you have a better chance in the public school program, the government program. But again, there's no demand. They're not going to hire you. They're going to look at your resume and see that you're Indian, and they're just going to skip over you. Because A, they don't know about the rule, the new law, and B, there's no demand. Okay? It's all about demand. Okay? It's not right. It's not fair. But who's paying? That's the thing, right? Job offer. That's the number one thing. I keep getting people asking me questions saying, oh, but I have my degree. I speak better English than most people. It doesn't matter. It's against the law. It's not about your qualifications. I'm going to say this one more time. It's not about your qualifications. It's about the law. I'm so sorry. It sucks. It sucks big time. Even me, okay, having the education, being a Canadian citizen and speaking English in a flat accent, I still have trouble getting jobs sometimes because I don't look white. But because I've been here so long and I have a good resume and excellent references, I get jobs all the time. So let's move on. That's the teacher's visa, okay? You can follow the immigration website. You have to have a minimum of a bachelor's degree from an accredited university. I'll say that one more time, okay? You have to have a bachelor's degree in any subject from an accredited university. And you have to have the degree, you have to have the transcript, apostilled, and all of that legal stuff, okay? No. Certificate, blah, blah, blah. No. Minimum. Bachelor's degree in any subject. You have to have medical check. You have to have a criminal background check. If you have any criminal history, you will be struck. Okay? Basically, they're looking for sexual offenses or drug offenses or major criminal convictions. A DUI, maybe. It's up to immigration. I can't tell you whether it's yes or no. Your friend got in with a DUI, you might not. Okay? It's up to the immigration officer to decide. And here's where people get caught up. Just because your friend did it or you heard about somebody else do it doesn't mean you can. Okay? And I need to be very clear on this. Just because it says you're allowed doesn't mean it's possible. It's up to the immigration officer. They will decide whether you get in or not. And it's 100% up to them. Okay? I am allowed a 5-year visa. Okay? Sometimes I get 3, sometimes I get 2, sometimes I get 5. I've had 5 once. Last year, 2. Up to I asked. I said, why only 2? He says, it's only 2. I'm like, okay. I'm not going to argue with them. I've learned after 13 years here, I don't argue with. Yes, thank you very much. Next. Okay? So you have to have all of that documentation and you have to have the job offer. When you go to your local embassy, you submit all that paperwork, they process it, you get a stamp in your passport, you fly over, and then you go through the process. I'm going to talk about your legal requirements after you arrive in Korea in another video in a couple of weeks. Okay, so follow along. This is going to be a multi-part video I'm going to be doing, so please follow along. Let's wrap this up. Next, so migrant worker. Here is something else. This is very difficult to get. There's so many rules around it. It's working in factories, working in farms, working in fisheries. Not easy. Okay, coming from a poor country, you need a criminal background check, medical check, and a job offer. Okay, you apply at the local embassy, Korean embassy in your country, and you receive a visa. You arrive here and your visa's processed and you work, and there's a limit. It's 3 years, 8 months, or 1 year, 8 months, something like that. The government has extended it because of COVID, because there's not enough migrant workers in the farms. The pay is low, the conditions are bad, but it's way more money than you can make in your home country. All right, I know from Sri Lanka, my family's from Sri Lanka. I know my parents' former driver actually came to Sri Lanka. I had lunch with him a couple years ago when he was in Seoul, but he was down south working in one of the factories down near Ulsan, which is near Busan, working at one of the Hyundai factories. There are so many Sri Lankans working in the factories down south that the Sri Lankan embassy in Korea actually opened a consulate down there. That's how many people are working down there. Anyway, and all the Sri Lankan restaurants I mean are all down there. Number 3, working holiday. No, we didn't talk. So, teacher's visa, migrant worker, and now like a job. Okay, Sam, I have a PhD in this or master's degree in this, and I want to come and work in Korea. Are there companies hiring? Yes. Number 1, you have to have experience. And we're talking PhD level or 10 or 20 years. Okay? You have to be advanced in your field. So for example, AI, robotics, green technologies, biotech now, computers, that kind of thing. Number 3, you need to be better than a Korean. They're not going to hire you over a Korean. And number 4, you have to speak Korean. It's basic. Unless, that's the number 4. That's the lowest requirement, but you do have to speak Korean. Okay? Unless you're unless you're 50 years old and you're Bill Gates. Okay? That's what I'm saying. They're not going to hire someone they're not going to hire someone that they can find in Korea. Okay? That's the basic gist of it, okay? So getting your visa in Korea is based on the need. the demand of your skill in Korea. So you need to think about that. And this is key. This is very important for you to understand. It's not about your qualifications. All right? You may be the best teacher, the best worker in your country, but are you needed in Korea? Can they hire someone cheaper who's Korean or already here? You got to think about that, okay? And the best way to find out, you can hit me up. I'll gladly answer any questions anybody has to the best of my ability, or point you to the right place where you can find the right answer. Or Facebook groups. There are so many Facebook groups that offer help and support and direction, okay? And just don't follow what I say, because I may not know everything. I'm just basing this off of my experience living here for 13 years. So that is how to get a visa in Korea, where should I look, who should be looking for a visa in Korea. And I'll wrap it up by saying the person who should be looking for a job in Korea is someone who can support the Korean economy. Okay? Are you in demand? And the number one demand is high-level executives. That's number one. Number two, scientists, doctors, bioengineers, like the super intelligent. Number three, anyone who can benefit the Korean economy from a social, financial, or political situation. So, say Tom Cruise wanted to move to Korea and get a job here, they would do it because he's popular, he's famous. It would add to the Korean thing. Like a sports hero, okay? I don't know sports guys or anything, Korea's big in baseball, so a huge baseball player wants to come and play here. They'll let him, okay? Because it adds to the Korean social position. And he's taking a job that a Korean couldn't do, okay? Or that he is better than a Korean. Number three, number four, wherever we are at is in education. If you're from a Western country, unfortunately, if you're white, blonde, blue eye, what have you, female, young, you're number one, okay? Handsome, pretty, what have you. That's what the Hagwons want, the private academies, because they're in competition with each other. You got to remember this. The Korean population is going down. There's less children being born. Less children being born means less students for these schools, okay? Which means now the parents will be able to move their kids to the premier schools for a lower price because there's not enough. How many schools have closed? Mine closed. Lower enrollment. We lost so many kids. And there's no kids signing up. So this is, in 13 years, this is probably the third one that I've had been laid off of because they closed. There's no students. There's no children being born. Where are these kids, where are these companies going to get kids? They're not. So that's what's happening. So now they have to up their image through their curriculum or their teachers. That's basic. That's basic marketing. So you got to realize that. You got to understand that. Number 4, 5, wherever number we're at, is the need. Okay, so they need migrant workers. They need factory workers. They need fishermen. They need these people to come and do the grunt work. Okay, so try to think about, can I fill a need in the country? Do your research. Do your investigation. Please be safe. Be happy. I hope this helped everyone. Itaewon Sammy, King of Gangnam, Gangnam Sammy. I'm out.